Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. Now in today's video, guys, I'm going to be doing a review on the new movie, The Retirement Plan, which I'm sure many of you have some questions about what I'm talking about here. I'll explain in a little bit, but I apologize if my voice sounds a little bit different. I am kind of on the ending stages of a cold right now, so my voice still does sound pretty pretty different, but I'll try to get through this video as best as I can, because I do want to make a full review for this movie. I feel like there was enough to talk about it, and I'm sure some of you are kind of curious exactly what I'm talking about, the retirement plan. You probably didn't hear about it, but I guess I don't really have many announcements to make. I got three other movies to watch this month. I got The Creator, which I do want to see now that I have seen some updated trailers of it. It looks very, very good. Dumb Money, and Saw X. So those are the three other movies I'm going to be watching this month and making reviews on. So make sure you stay tuned for those. If you have any video ideas, please let me know in the comments section, wherever. Please let me know. I'm always looking for something to make in the meantime while I don't have a lot to do. So always be feeding me some video ideas, and I will try to get to some of those and hopefully upload them if I do. I am interested in doing them. And then next month we got obviously October, so there's gonna be a lot of good horror movies to watch next month as well. And I'm trying to think of some rankings to do right now as well. So yeah, just stay tuned for any potential future content. I don't really have a whole lot to say here. Let's just get straight into this review. So The Retirement Plan. I saw a trailer for this movie a couple months ago. Not in the theater, but it was on YouTube, I believe. I saw a trailer for this movie, and all I saw on the thumbnail was Nicolas Cage, and he's got, like, you know, got a beard growing, you know, gray hair, all this stuff, looking like an older guy in this movie. And so I'm like, okay, I'm curious to see what this is about. I see the trailer for this movie, and I'm instantly hooked onto this movie. Look at the description, everything like that. See some of the actors that are in here. There's actually some pretty prominent actors in this movie. Not only do you have Nicolas Cage, but you also have Ron Perlman and a few others, not to mention Ernie Hudson, who played in Ghostbusters, obviously. So there are some pretty prominent actors thrown into this movie, but obviously at the center stage is obviously Nicolas Cage, and I'll talk about some of the utilization of some of the other prominent actors in this movie as well later on. But yeah, I just saw the trailer for this movie, saw what it was kind of about, and I was instantly hooked onto this movie. I know that there wasn't many people who saw the trailer for this movie or really knew that it was coming out anyway. I believe it was supposed to come out like early August at some point, and it wasn't on any streaming services or anything like that. I don't know if this is playing at all theaters. I think it might just be like a limited number of theaters, but I was really doubtful that this was going to be playing in my theaters. I was very confused what the release date was going to be, and finally, I looked on the AMC app, and it said September 15th, and it was playing in my theaters, and I was so happy because I did not want to wait to watch this movie on streaming. I was really, really excited to see this movie. It just looked really, really good and fun. Looked like it was going to be a fun time overall. And so I was really happy that it was showing at my theater. And yeah, I would say overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. This is a very, very good action comedy movie. And despite it maybe seeing more at a lower budget, and so there, you know, it might not be as good. Maybe Nicolas Cage isn't really at his top performance or anything like that. This really turned out to be a very, very solid action comedy. Nicolas Cage was not slacking at all in this movie. I think he really did have a lot of care, or put a lot of care into this movie, and really just made it as an enjoyable experience as possible. So yeah, obviously Nicolas Cage, just at peak performance in this movie. For those of you who are, you know, because not a lot of people know about this movie, so I guess I'll explain to you kind of what about the plot is. Basically, this guy named Jimmy is introduced at the beginning of the movie, and he has a hold of this hard drive, I guess, and one of these guys that he is working for, he finds out that he's doing some illegal stuff, and so he wants that hard drive back. He doesn't want him to, you know, tell the police about it or anything like that. So he's chasing after this guy, and he's just trying to make sure that his wife and his daughter is safe. So he tells his wife and his daughter, he gives them the hard drive, says, go, get out of here, escape or whatever, you're going to have to get out of here. And so the wife doesn't have enough tickets to go on a plane to Cayman Islands, which is where they're trying to escape to. So she sends the daughter there with the hard drive. I'll talk about that later. And so the daughter goes to Cayman Islands. The reason why she sends her there is because her dad, Nicolas Cage, is this retired beach bum, as they call it in the description of this movie. And so he is basically going to take care of her during this movie. And so the mom obviously gets caught. Now she's with Donnie, who's our main antagonist in this movie. He's the guy who's trying to get this hard drive the entire movie. And so he's got the mom, and then he sends some guys down to the Cayman Islands, and every time he sends a new group of guys down there, Ron Perlman, by the way, who plays Bobo in this movie, he's that guy in those action movies where he's the accomplice of the bad guy, but he doesn't really want to be the accomplice. He's just kind of doing it. Like, he's like one of his top guys, but he really doesn't want to be doing this. So he's kind of that guy in this movie. So he sends down multiple groups of guys, and they keep on just dying off and stuff like that because Nicolas Cage in this movie is just an absolute badass, and just he's like an assassin in this movie, just killing everything that gets in his way. And so eventually Donnie goes down there with a big group of guys and attempts to take him down. And as in most action movies, there's always a higher, how do you want to say it? There's always somebody who's at a higher position than what you think. So really, Donnie's not like at the very, very top of this. You got this other gal named Hector who's really running the show and is like the big mastermind behind all this criminal activity going on and things like that. So it's got all of the things that you would expect out of an action film. I'm sure you guys kind of get the idea here. Yeah, this was a really, really solid action comedy. Nicolas Cage, despite, like I said, if you watch the trailer, some might think it's more at the lower end because it's got kind of a lower budget. It may seem like a lower budget movie at times, which it is. You can tell that it is definitely limited. It's not like they were able to go all out in this movie. They don't have a lot of different settings that they can use in this movie, but I will tell you, they use them very, very well in this movie. They are very, very resourceful with it. Like, for example, they utilize a hotel room very, very greatly. They utilize Nicolas Cage's house. He lives on this beach house. They utilize that very well for some action sequences. They utilize a boat for action sequences really well. So they have all these different small little set pieces that they have, but they utilize them very, very well in this movie despite their small budget, and it is still just as enjoyable as, say Tom Cruise jumping off of a huge cliff that they had to probably rent this huge space for so that they could have plenty of open space to do these action sequences. Whereas in this movie, they have these small set pieces, but they utilize them very, very well. Like I said, Nicolas Cage is just at his peak performance in this movie. Just an absolute badass. Towards the ending of the movie, puts on a vest, he's armed with an assault rifle, and he's taking out the bad guys. It's just really, really fun to watch. And then Ron Perlman, who's, like I said, was the accomplice of Donnie in this movie. I really like him, too, in this movie. At one point, he does get a hold of the daughter, and so he's taking care of her for a while, and they have some good exchange here and there. So yeah, I really liked Ron Perlman in this movie. It's a shame, though, that they just kill him off. I thought, like, he was going to get some kind of redemptive arc in this movie where he turns on Donnie or something like that, but no, they just end up killing him off in this movie, which is really, really disappointing about that, guys, but yeah, so Ron Perlman, I really, really liked him in this movie as well. He was definitely had some really, really funny moments in this movie, and I think they just utilized the prominent actors in this movie very, very well, whether it's Ernie Hudson, who is helping out Nicolas Cage in a small part of this movie, but he does get to do a few action sequences with Nicolas Cage, whether it's Ron Perlman, who has some good moments thrown in there as well. They utilize their prominent actors very well. It's not like they're just thrown in there as cameos and then the, like, unfamiliar actors are really just running the show. No, obviously they're going to trust their prominent actors, and they utilize them very, very well here. So yeah, I really like what they did with them. And a lot of the side characters in this movie, they all get their small little moments and their exchanges and explain kind of their life and things like that. Although I will say, I guess I'll talk about that later. But yeah, really overall, this was a really really funny movie. I liked the utilization of the actors in this movie. I really liked the utilization of the set pieces in this movie, and overall, it was very very quick paced. It's an hour and like 50 minutes. And there is a whole lot to it, admittedly. Like, at first, things start out pretty simple, but then it kind of gets more convoluted at the end. I'll talk about more about that later. But yeah, it's like an hour and 50 minutes long. But boy, it moves quickly, and it's really, really enjoyable. And every minute of it was spent just laughing my butt off and everything like that. So I think it had a perfectly good runtime, no complaints there. I really like this movie. It was quick paced, it was moving, which is exactly what an action film should be doing. And if it isn't moving, then we got some funny moments going on with whether it's a Nicolas Cage, Ron Perlman, whatever. Just really really funny. Also, I just like some of the little things they do in this movie as well, like little small details that they throw in there. Like, when they introduce the characters at the beginning of this movie, they throw in some, like, weird, like, they put in a freeze frame, and it's, like, Jimmy, and then it's like, Donnie, or Bobo, or whatever it is, and then, like, when Nicolas Cage gets introduced, he's, like, laying on the beach, falling asleep, and the little girl comes there, finds him, and then he, like, gets, like, really scared, so he's got, like, this liquor bottle that he's holding up, and then they freeze frame him, and they're like, Matt, or Jim. It's like, it's really really funny. I like the little details that they put in there in this movie. So yeah, super funny, super quick moving, very very enjoyable. Now kind of getting into the negatives, which are honestly pretty small for me. I guess starting with the mixed, I think this is definitely a mixed thing because it is expected. It's not something where it's like, oh, they could have done that better. It does have a lot of the action film tropes that you would expect, particularly at the ending of this movie, where one guy shoots another guy, and then there's another guy that you don't know about that comes in. But it wasn't like they did it, like, out of nowhere. Like, there's this guy that they never introduced throughout the entire movie, just comes out of nowhere and explains, like, his evil plot or whatever. It isn't like that. I think that they know that they're being over the top, but it's not like they throw it out of nowhere. We do see these people throughout the movie, and you kind of do expect it coming, but you don't expect that they're, like, actually, like, what their plan is. And it's not just like, oh, this bad guy is defeating this bad, or whatever. Actually, the good guys kind of get their comeuppance at the ending of the movie, because they're pretending to work alongside the bad guys during this movie. But they trick him, and they eventually take him down, and it is very, very satisfying. So yeah, it's got a lot of your action tropes, where you got the accomplice for Ron Perlman, for example, who doesn't really want to be the accomplice, but and eventually, well, he never does it in this movie, but usually would turn on betray the bad guy in this movie and help the good guys in this movie, which he didn't end up getting to do. But he's essentially that character in this movie. Just all of your action cliches. You got the main character, Nicolas Cage, in this movie, who is just a big badass. Nobody really knows who he is, but he's just managing to take out everybody in this movie and stuff like that. So yeah, just all of your action cliches and tropes, which are to be expected. Another small thing here, like I said about when I was explaining the plot of this movie, there's some things in here that I don't know. I just thought it was funny to mention. Like, it's not like a complaint or anything like that. But like I was saying about the plot, the mom who doesn't have enough tickets to get on, or can't, there's not enough space on the plane to get two people on there, so she has to end up sending the daughter alone to the Cayman Islands. And she like cuts a little spot open in her backpack and puts the hard drive in there. And I know most people think, okay, well, that's a smart idea, that'll keep it hidden from them. And, well, we know how this works. Like, they're gonna keep pushing until they find what they want. And out of all people you could give the hard drive to, you give it to your daughter. Like, you're literally putting your daughter in danger. Like, what an asshole. I'm sorry, but one of our main characters is, like, we're supposed to, like, be rooting for her, but she's kind of an ass throughout, like, this movie. So, I don't really like some of the decisions she makes in this movie. She's, you got Nicolas Cage, who's, like, just being Nicolas Cage, and then you got her who's like one, the secondary main character, and she doesn't really get to throw any jokes in there. She's supposed to be like the serious character throughout this movie because that's the one that they're chasing after. But I don't know. I wish there was just some kind of relief with that character, because there were some things that they did with her in this movie that I didn't really like. And I know it's like a small complaint. Like, that's something that, CinemaSins would say or something like that. But really, like, giving the hard drive to your daughter, like putting it in her backpack, like, what are you trying to do? Like come on. We're supposed to be rooting for you, but you're doing that. So, yeah, those are some of my mixed things, but some negative things that I want to put in here that are very, very minor and could have been fixed there are quite a few abandoned subplots in this movie. The big one being, at the beginning of the movie, we get introduced to Jimmy, who I explained in the plot was the guy who was working with Donnie but didn't know about the criminal activity and eventually found out about it, and so that's why he's trying to make sure he doesn't tell anybody and get the hard drive back. He's running away from him at the beginning of this movie, tells his daughter and his wife to get away or whatever, and we literally do not see him after that. He's just in that opening sequence, and he's gone after that. Like, he's mentioned shortly after that, like, the wife is asking, "Where's Jimmy?" And Donnie's just like, "Oh, he'll be fine," or what, whatever. You get what I mean. But he literally never shows up after that. I don't think he's even mentioned after that. So, I'm just like, he's, like, you're not going to do anything else with him? I don't know. It just didn't really make sense to me. There's also, like, a lot of other things in here where you think that they're going to come, like little things where they don't build upon it intentionally, and you'll think that they'll come back to it and eventually, like, discuss, like, what's going on there. But no, it's just completely abandoned. They never come back to it or whatever. Like, I'll give you an example. The daughter is asking Nicolas Cage, who's, like, Matt or Jim. He's got, like, 2 different names in this movie. Asking why do you have 2 different names? And he's like, well, I'll save that for another time or whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe there's something important behind that they're waiting to tell at the ending of the movie. And they never come back to it. So there's some abandoned subplots in this movie. And that's probably about my only complaints. So, yeah, overall, despite this movie's low budget, it utilizes its small set pieces really, really well. I really like Nicolas Cage's performance. It wasn't like he was slacking in this movie just because it's at the lower end of... Obviously, he's been in much more higher budget movies. No, he's at his he put a lot of heart and care into this movie, and I loved it. He made it very, very enjoyable. So, yeah, The Retirement Plan... very, very enjoyable. I would definitely recommend it. You probably don't need to see it in theaters, but if you're somebody who's a big Nicolas Cage fan, definitely go check it out, whether it is in theaters or it is on streaming. I just wanted to see it on theaters right away because I didn't want to wait for streaming. I was really excited for this movie. I was waiting long enough for this movie to come out anyway, because I'm pretty sure I saw the trailer like back in July. It was supposed to come out in August, and then finally got announced to be released this month. And so I've been waiting a while, and it definitely paid off. I really, really enjoyed this movie. So yeah, that's about it. Overall, what would I give this movie out of 10? I think I'll rate it at a decently high number. I think I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. Like I said, the subplots I think could have been addressed, and I just don't like how that they kind of abandoned a lot of stuff in this movie. But overall, very, very enjoyable, very quick paced. Yeah, I really, really love this movie. If you have seen this movie, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. And stay tuned for future content. Let me know of any video ideas if you have any. And I think that's it. Like and subscribe, guys. And I will see you next time.